Hello and welcome back to another video, and today we're talking about the Atari 5200. Now that's a system that doesn't get talked about very much, and it's usually because the controllers break. Now if you've never seen an Atari 5200 controller, this is what it looks like right here. It's one of those during the time period where they wanted to put a whole phone keypad on anything. It's not the only system that did that. The ColecoVision, the Intellivision did that. It was kind of like the thing to do. In fact, they even brought it back for the Jaguar. Whatever reason they decided to do that. Outside of that, you got some fire buttons on both sides, and you have a stick, a strange stick that's not. It's squishy, and the reason for that is because it's controlled by two potentiometers that are spinning inside. It's very weird, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Now, for the longest time, I didn't have a fully working set. By set, I mean two controllers. I had a working controller. The other working controller was heavily modified. The fire buttons were replaced entirely by these little, momentary push sort of buttons. There was one on each side that I dropped it, but it was pretty much like drilled and crammed in there, and somebody wired it in. But it worked. It actually worked, even though it looked awful. It functioned enough where I could play games. But then it stopped. Fire buttons worked, but none of the face buttons worked. So I had looked up how do you fix this? Well, the old-fashioned way was to take apart the keypads and you glue some aluminum foil on the back of the buttons. That worked great for the longest time, and then it stopped again. So I was very confused because the continuity was there. Then I thought, well, maybe the pads on the actual, circuit flex board, whatever you want to call it, it's like a thin piece of plastic. In fact, I'll show it to you. This is what was inside the controller. This is the controller. This floppy bit of plastic alongside for the camera. And each of these pads here is what those now silver. Originally, they were just made out of what looked like little tiny magnets. I'm not exactly sure what they were. But that's how the buttons worked. And they didn't work very well. You would have to clean this, you'd have to add the foil, and then even that stopped working for me. And I got really confused until I ran I took a voltmeter and I was checking the continuity, because you can see all the lines in here and where they go. Well, I found out that apparently somewhere down the line, because of the way this bends and has to be crammed in there, it broke somewhere inside. And I'm thinking to myself, well, the only way I'm going to fix that is if I take little tiny wires and just solder every single button point. It was going to be a disaster. I was coming up with ideas how I could replace basically the whole thing with buttons like this, except small. And then just one day, I don't even remember the search term I put into eBay, and I found a replacement of this. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm sure there's people who've sacrificed controllers and put this. No. This is a brand new, being fabricated at this moment, circuit pad board device doohickey. And the difference between this, as you can see, first, it's not see-through. And second is it's gold plated. All of these pads are gold plated. Now, on top of that, the company also sells, here it is, new buttons, including these buttons, all the buttons. And on the back of those, they are also gold plated. And I was just blown away that this even exists. So, of course, I bought them immediately, thinking they'll eventually sell out. And then I get the card from AtariRepairParts.com. And, here's the thing. Next time, try to use the website because everything costs less. And it does. So, I recommend the website over the eBay. But, I'd never heard of them before, so I went through eBay just for the buyer protection stuff. So I tore apart the controllers. Here's the other one. It's still in pieces. Yeah, this is what it looks like inside. This is all there is to it. This is the two potentiometers that this contraption sits on. As you do this, it moves the pieces around. And that's why I call it, it's a stick, but it isn't a stick. It's some of the strangest stuff I've ever seen. So how easy is it to install this? Well, you just got to figure out where the bins go. There's like a little, this top arc here goes underneath, from what I can tell. I took the old bits out before I really looked at them. And yeah, you pretty much, you fold that underneath, and then you kind of like wedge the sides down in there. And did it work? Yes, it did. In fact, I want to show you how well it works. So we're going to change angles. Alright, we changed angles and we're pointing at this old CRT. Here's the controller from before. Now, before we get started, I did want to say this wasn't the first thing I tried. I thought that there's 4 chips inside this. Actually, there's 5 chips inside the system that kind of decode what you're doing on the controller. I thought it was that first. So I changed those, and that didn't make a difference. I completely took apart this console, made sure all the points were good. This thing pretty much got rebuilt in the process. And all it was stupid controllers, which I should have known. So, see how easy that was? Let's play some River Raid. This is the game that I bought. Well, it's hard to play it through a camera, but this is the game that I bought that actually, when I realized the controllers were completely done. And the fact that I have 2 controllers and they were both broken in the same way is a bit crazy. Yeah, so as you can see, it's working out pretty good. Fire buttons are very responsive. The stick always worked. That was never an issue before. Here, we'll pause. Unpause, we'll reset the system. See, all these buttons work. We'll even push the buttons that are down here. Not all of them do anything in this game, but the ones that do, you can hear it making beeping noises. Yeah, not every button's used in every game, but as you can see, it works great. And I'm glad I can finally play my River Raid. It's one of the best games I think Activision made back in the day. They were definitely a better game company than Atari was, which is kind of sad when your competition is making better games for your own system. But really, this was more about the controller. So I have one working controller. The other one, I need the plastic framing that goes around here. And, of course, the people at good old Atari Repair Parts, I put it out to them and said, hey, do you have any? And they're looking for me. But if they don't, I know some 3D print people that might be able to help me out. We'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely check these guys out. They make really good stuff. It's really affordable. I think I paid for both of the flex boards and the buttons something like only $40, and that's the eBay price, and it's cheaper on their website. I think it's like, it came to like almost like an $8 or $9 difference, I believe, is when I calculated it out. So yeah, it's super cheap, much cheaper than I expected, and well worth the money, because now I can finally play my favorite Atari system. Reliably, at least. Yeah, this system had all kinds of problems. It even had a makeshift fire hazard for a power supply. Then I realized it was just a standard one that works. You know, I had one in a drawer, replaced it. So slowly but surely, this system is getting an overhaul. But yeah, check them out, and I'll see you in the next one.